The pressure at Ferrari has long been notoriously intense, but as the 2026 Formula One season approaches, the situation has become a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at any moment. Scuderia Ferrari is now at its most dangerous crossroads in a decade. The team is not only facing major regulatory changes that could impact its performance, but also the uncertain futures of its two key pillars. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc is also at stake. When two such prominent figures make their intention so clear, the shockwaves are felt not only in Maranello, but also throughout the Formula One paddock. Is Ferrari ready to weather this storm, or will it lose both Hamilton and Leclerc? Let's discuss. For Leclerc, this is a career-defining moment. The Monegasque driver has spent his entire Formula One career with Ferrari. He arrived as a promising young talent, blossomed into a star, and is now entering the golden age of a racing driver. Leclerc has proven his worth time and again. He has experienced pole positions, victories, and fierce battles at the front of the pack. However, these moments only come when Ferrari can provide a competitive car, and unfortunately, those moments are all too rare. The 2025 season was a major blow. Ferrari started the season optimistically, but ended up finishing fifth in the constructors' standings, a result far below the standards of a team like Ferrari. For Leclerc, this was unacceptable. He knew time was running out. With only 5 to 6 years remaining at the top level, he didn't want to waste his prime in a car incapable of fighting for the title. His loyalty and patience were being tested, and Leclerc called 2026 a now or never moment. Leclerc understood one crucial thing. The new regulatory era wasn't just about 1 or 2 seasons, but rather the long-term direction of a team. If Ferrari failed to interpret and implement the regulations, by the beginning of 2026, there was a significant risk that they could be trapped in mediocre performance for the entire cycle until 2030. This would mean losing momentum and 4 seasons without a realistic chance of competing for the World Championship. Therefore, Leclerc made his stance very clear. If Ferrari stumbles again at the start of a new era, he has no intention of staying simply out of loyalty or for the sake of history. Internal reports indicate that there is a performance clause in his contract that allows him to leave if technical and result targets are not met. The message is unmistakable. Ferrari can no longer rely solely on Leclerc's love of red. In this new era, only results on the track and proof that Ferrari is worth fighting for will matter. If Leclerc's situation is serious, then Hamilton's is arguably far more critical and decisive. Hamilton, now 40 years old, came to Maranello not simply to enjoy the twilight of his career or to experience the romance of wearing Ferrari red. He came with a clear, ambitious mission: to make history by winning the 8th world title that had always eluded him. However, the 2025 season turned out to be the most devastating chapter in the legend's career. For the first time in his long Formula One career, Hamilton finished a season without a single podium finish. This shocking statistic dealt a heavy blow not only to the public and the F1 paddock, but also to Hamilton himself, a driver accustomed to being at the top or at least at the front. Although Hamilton never made any overt threats, the message behind his body language, tone and demeanour was clear. He would not tolerate a second season like that. Several prominent figures in Formula One, including former team principals and senior analysts, openly stated that Hamilton might retire early if Ferrari failed to deliver a competitive car under the new 2026 regulations. His move to Ferrari is essentially the final gamble of his remarkable career, which is filled with records, titles, and history. If he doesn't return to the World Championship, Hamilton will undoubtedly close the book on his Formula One story. He will be remembered not as a driver who stuck around too long, but as a legend who knew when to retire. The pressure on Ferrari doesn't just come from within the garage. In Italy, Ferrari is more than just a racing team. It's a national symbol. Every failure feels personal to the tifosi. The Italian media is notoriously ruthless, and the public's patience is wearing thin. Ferrari last won a world title in 2007 with Kimi Räikkönen. Each year without a title adds to the team's historical burden. 2026 is now seen as the last chance to break the curse. Recognizing the importance of this moment, Ferrari made the extreme decision to halt development of its 2025 car early and focus entirely on the 2026 project, known as Project 678. Significant investments have been made, facilities have been upgraded, and new engineers have been hired. However, history hasn't always been on their side. Ferrari failed to understand the new regulations in 2014 and struggled again in 2022. A similar mistake this time would be fatal. If Ferrari fails to manage this situation, the consequences could be dire. Losing Charles Leclerc would mean risking the team's future by letting go of a young, talented driver who had been projected as a symbol of regeneration and the team's long-term hopes. Conversely, losing Lewis Hamilton would mean letting go of an experienced figure with a world champion aura, on-track leadership, and an irreplaceable global reputation. But the worst-case scenario doesn't end there. If one or both ends up at a rival team, such as Mercedes or McLaren, and then wins another world title, it will cause far more damage to Ferrari. It wouldn't just be a loss in the standings, it would be a severe blow to Ferrari's pride, management credibility, and image as the dream team for the world's best drivers. Former Formula One driver and analyst Martin Brundle considers Ferrari's situation ahead of 2026 to be the most dangerous gamble of the last decade. According to Brundle, the combination of sweeping regulatory changes and pressure from two world-class drivers creates an extreme situation. He emphasised that this time, Ferrari's failure would not be seen as a mere misreading of a technical concept, but as an indication of systemic weaknesses in long-term strategic decision-making. If Ferrari missteps again at the start of the new regulations, Brundle argues that they could be trapped in mediocre performance for years. Meanwhile, F1 observer and former team boss Eddie Jordan highlighted the psychological and reputational impact of losing Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc simultaneously. According to Jordan, this would send a negative signal to the entire paddock, indicating that Ferrari is still unable to provide a stable, competitive environment for elite drivers. He emphasised that, in the modern Formula One era, Ferrari's historical appeal alone is insufficient. The best drivers will choose teams that can demonstrate a clear and consistent technical direction. If Ferrari fails in 2026, they risk losing their status as the ultimate destination for champions. The 2026 season marks the beginning of a new era for Ferrari. It's also a test of Ferrari's ability to remain a top Formula One team. They have it all: two world-class drivers, financial resources, and immense motivation. There's no room for error or excuses. If they succeed, they can retain Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc and potentially win the World Championship. If they fail, however, they risk losing both drivers. Will Ferrari bounce back in 2026, or will they lose two of their biggest stars? Let us know your thoughts below.